Parashah Vayetze is our Torah reading this Shabbat. And it's related to how do you get along with relatives you don't get along with. I hope that your Thanksgiving was peaceful, but there is this common concern that when we gather in Thanksgiving, whether in person or this year by Zoom, there may be the uncle or the other family member that has very different perspectives or that you might not have had some good experiences with. And Thanksgiving is the time for both tolerance and getting along. And so in this, the day after Thanksgiving, a teaching to relate to that challenge. Jacob has a difficult uncle, his mother's brother. His name is Lavan. And in Vayetze, Jacob leaves home. He comes and he meets this beautiful woman, Rachel. He wants to marry her. And her father, Uncle Lavan, says, "You want to marry my daughter? Be great. But you got to work 7 years." So he works 7 years, and on the night of his wedding, there's a ruse. And rather than marrying Rachel, the woman that he has joined in union with is her sister, Leah. And the next morning, Jacob is obviously upset, and he says to Uncle Lavan, "How could you have tricked me?" And Lavan says, "Don't you know in our culture, the oldest always marries before the youngest? If you want to marry the youngest as well, again in a culture of polygamy, if you want to marry Rachel as well, you can marry her now, but you must work another 7 years." And so he becomes the husband of Leah and Rachel. And after those 14 years of labor and doing well on behalf of Uncle Lavan, Jacob says, "I would like to earn some independence. I would like wages now that I've paid my debt for my wives." And Uncle Lavan says, "That's fine. You can have the lambs that are speckled and spotted, and they will be your reward." And then instructs his sons to remove the speckled sheep from the herd. Again, not acting, if you will, in best faith. Well, tensions grow. And after 6 years, Lavan says to his wives, Lavan's daughters, "I'm out of here. We need to leave. Your father keeps changing my wages. He doesn't play it straight with me. I can't get along. And now we got to move fast because your father is away shearing the sheep. This is our chance to get away." And so Yaakov, whose name means the one who goes roundabout, also not so good at being direct, with his wives' consent, they take off. And Lavan hears about it and he comes chasing. And he comes to Jacob and he says, "You left without giving me notice, and more. My precious terebinths, my house idol, you took." And Jacob says, "How dare you accuse me of this? I did no such thing as steal from you. And you, throughout the years, took advantage of me, and that's why I left." Well, clearly, this is not a good meeting of family. And yet, they will reconcile. So I want to share with you the reconciliation. That's the continuation of chapter 31. They decide that they need to have a pact. "Come, let us make a pact, you and I, that there may be a witness between you and me, Thereupon Jacob took a stone and set up as a pillar, and Jacob to his kinsmen said, gather stones. And now verse 47, the only Aramaic in the 5 books of Moses. Lavan named that place Yigar Shahaduta, which in Aramaic means the mound of stones. And Jacob named the mound of testimony of this agreement, and Jacob named it Gal Ed, which means in Hebrew, mound of testimony. And Lavan declared, this mound is a witness between you and me this day. That is why it is now named Gilad, and it was called Mitzpah. And now going forward, Lavan blesses his nephew. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, which is Abraham's brother, their ancestral deities, may they judge between us. And Jacob swore b'pachad aviv Yitzchak, according to the awe of his father Isaac. Jacob then offered up a sacrifice on the height, on this mound, and invited his kinsmen to partake of the meal. And after the meal, they spent the night on that mountain height together. So, to pull this together for tonight, the night after Thanksgiving, sometimes there are reasons to differ from even those who are family, and more. There is reason to have a collective history with others that create distrust and even animosity. And yet, our ancestors come to show us a way, a path forward, a path that creates agreements, covenant, not to let the past control the present, let alone the future, and do so with words that are spoken directly, but not about the areas of the hurt, rather about the areas of the future defined by a present of agreement and more. That one, in this case Jacob, takes the initiative to make that Thanksgiving meal, and in this case Uncle Lavan, to his credit, joins in the meal of covenant, the meal of celebration, and spends the night, lingers, reconciles. In the aftermath of a very heated election, someone said to me, "You're my rabbi," he said. "I need your help. How do I get along with people that I just don't understand, who so deeply upset me? The election is over, but I don't know how to move forward." For many of us, we have family who have different political views, or friends, or beyond politics. There are areas of disagreement. And so, Uncle Lavan and his nephew Jacob demonstrate a path forward for all of us to express the hopes for the future, to memorialize it, to make a meal and share it, and to linger. Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, on this, the night after Thanksgiving, may we celebrate our bounty, which is more than all the good food on the table. It's the people we would want to have around the table with us too. In some cases, those we may have differed from. May we reconcile to at least agree that being family matters, that friendship matters, that we can move together with words that look forward in celebration. May we live with thanksgiving and reconciliation. Amen.
Amen.